Hello, everybody, and welcome to July 2025. My name is Lisa Pesnichek. I'm with the Dynamic Self Astrology for Life, and I'm happy to be here with you guys today to bring you the astrological weather for this month of July. So I don't know about you, but I've been feeling pretty exhausted lately. And most people who I speak with are navigating a combination of excitement and stimulation with overwhelm and fatigue. The astrology strongly speaks to this mix of fast like lightning experiences and being absolutely worn out. The human body is delicate by design. It can only go so far before it needs to relax and recover. For those of you, and I believe this is everyone, who are sensitive to the subtle and not so subtle energies that we are immersed within, you can likely identify with what I'm speaking to. This tricky combination of excitement and overwhelm will continue for a while. We are at a moment of breaking through outdated patterns and habits, finding new perspectives through the disintegration of broken structures. It is deep and exhilarating work, and we must tend to our bodies. Be sure that you're getting good sleep, eating nutritious food, finding moments of stillness and calm. Move your body in a nurturing way. Also, what are your dreams telling you? What is your intuition whispering into your ear? Be sure to listen to the messages that your higher self is sending your way. So, our first stop for this month is looking at the Neptune and Saturn stationing retrograde this month. I call this sensitization. So, whenever slower moving planets in particular, such as Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, station either retrograde or direct, their energetics are much more potent, almost tangible. We tend to see events materialize that are of the nature of the planet that is stationing or stopping from our perspective. This month, we have both Neptune and Saturn stationing retrograde. And Neptune stations on July 4th, 2025 at 2 degrees Aries, 10 minutes. And Saturn stations on July 12th, 2025 at 1 degree Aries, 56 minutes. If you have any placements or angles at or near 1 to 2 degrees of the cardinal signs, and that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Neptune, then you are much more likely to feel the stationing of Saturn and Neptune. When I spoke about the overwhelm and fatigue, I was referring to the influence that the Saturn-Neptune connection has over the world at this time. Saturn and Neptune brings heaviness, creeping loss, disintegration of stability, sensitivity, and hypermobility, like the sturdiness, the strong bone structure that we're used to has some sort of loosening to it, which might make us feel a bit more destabilized. So the boundaries are not secured or could be blurry altogether. This can play out both physically within nations, cultures, societal, etc., as well as energetically. While Saturn can feel like a major buzzkill at times, when the security that Saturn brings is made as porous as it currently is, it's conjunct Neptune, we miss knowing that there are rules and stable ground beneath our feet. However, there is a blessing to disintegrating the foundations that we know and depend upon. It provides us the opportunity to reimagine the rules and topography of our landscape. The next notable transit that's happening this month is that Uranus moves into Gemini. I'm calling this the jump start. So the Saturn-Neptune action dulls our vitality and it also tends to dull our ability to get up and go. It makes us feel heavy, saturated. But the Uranus moving into Gemini this month could provide a jump start into dreaming the new dream. Uranus makes its initial ingress into Gemini on July 7th, 2025, and it's a big deal. Astrologers have been looking at this transit for some time. With Saturn, Neptune, we could feel like we are submerged beneath a heavy, soggy blanket, unable to move. But rough and ready Uranus moving into multitasking Gemini could lighten the mood and inspire you to tinker with a new approach to an old problem. Both Uranus and Gemini are very finicky. They struggle with being both excited by the new shiny thing and simultaneously disappointed. Neither are great at commitment and follow through. However, They are both driven by communication, the spark in the moment, curiosity, change, and the like. Neither can tolerate boredom, latency, or staying the same. I go into some depth regarding Gemini's ingress into Gemini in my talk with the upcoming astrological summit, Revolution Rising Astrology for the Zeitgeist. And you can find a link to that summit at my website and other places. So briefly, this ingress is very important for the United States. It signals times of great change and even turmoil. The United States encounters this transit every 84 years. I don't believe that we will dive into the forthcoming tumultuousness as soon as Uranus enters Gemini, although I do think that we are already in at least part of the plot line. The world and the United States in particular is ready for a shift. It could be argued that there has been a recent lack of growth and development, maybe even a sleepy complacency. These moments are what makes life meaningful and what sparks evolution. I urge you to step into this upcoming or even current chapter with courage, grace, and vision for the future. Your presence in the world at this moment is no small coincidence. It is part of the master plan. Next, we move to the Capricorn full moon, which takes place on July 10th, 2025 at 18 degrees, 50 minutes. And we have the sun in Cancer, the moon in Capricorn. And it's a sweet and altogether gentle moment. There's really nothing that jumps out to me that looks like a very tense time. It looks like a time of development, of bringing things to light, but it doesn't necessarily look like there's some huge jolting moment. So this is really a full moon where we can enjoy, and I encourage you to do rituals if that calls you, sit with the full moon, see what is coming to full manifestation. So within this chart, the sun in Cancer is widely conjunct Jupiter in Cancer, which is very lovely, and illuminating this time with optimism, opportunity, and happiness. It is possible that Neptune's recent station retrograde and Saturn's current stationing is overshadowing the circumstances of this full moon just because their impact may feel a little bit heavier. However, this full moon is not tightly linked to that Saturn-Neptune like the Cancer new moon last month was. So that's really nice. In addition, Venus will form a conjunction with Uranus on July 4th, 2025, and a parallel relationship between the two planets will still be in play. This could contribute to a moment of exciting art, breakthroughs in women's and LGBTQ movements. On July 17th, 2025, Mercury will station retrograde at 15 degrees Leo, 34 minutes, and will be retrograde until it stations direct on August 11th, 2025 at 2 degrees Leo, 42 minutes. So take a look at your chart and see what you have between 2 to 15 degrees of fixed signs, which is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And for those of you who have strong placements in those fixed signs within those degrees, the degrees of 2 and 15, you will likely be feeling this Mercury retrograde a bit more strongly. Notably, Mercury's retrograde station will be at a hard aspect that we call a sesquisquare to both Saturn and Neptune. Thus, these planets are further highlighted, and we discussed their influence earlier in this newsletter. There could be news of deception, heaviness, or even loss. With the Mercury retrograde could be working through these topics, finding a solution or a resolution. We could find that those who are making news about being dangerous are being dangerously unclear, deceptive, and even straight out lying. When Mercury stations direct in mid-August, it does so in close opposition to Pluto. Mercury-Pluto can represent the lies coming to the surface. It can be a truth will out signature. So it's pretty potent information and heavy-handed words. It can also be very charismatic words, as well as some level of maybe obsession or something like that. I almost wonder if this Mercury retrograde is going to pull in some topics about the conflict with Iran, and possibly some going back on the peace treaty and potentially coming to some sort of a resolution towards the end. So we'll see how that manifests, but I have a feeling that this Mercury retrograde could have to do with that news cycle and those world events in particular. So our leadership could be using their power to manipulate and further hide their misgivings, which again could be part of this world conflict that we're seeing. So personally, for you personally, instead of looking at the wide world of news, use this Mercury retrograde to identify the ways that you are not being truthful with yourself and others. There's no shame in this game. We all have survival techniques, and those techniques can include small white lies, like things that aren't harming us or other people, but could be holding us back somehow. How can we be more forthright in how we communicate with ourselves and others? Not being painfully truthful can arguably harm ourselves more than others. How are you holding yourself back with untruths or deceit? And finally, to the Leo new moon, which brings us back to these hard truths. It takes place on July 24th, 2025 at 2 degrees Leo, 8 minutes. And the new moon is in an exact opposition to Pluto. There's something important about this 2 degrees Leo in the sky around this time because, as I just stated, Mercury will be stationing direct at the same degree on August 11th, 2025. Located in the early degrees of Leo, the new moon is also situated in a trine to Saturn and Neptune and a sextile to Uranus. So even though there's this tough opposition between these planets, there's also the support bringing in first of all, maybe the softening of structures and disintegration of those structures in a positive way and inspiration to bring new life into them. So we really see this powerful breaking down to build back up. We could be feeling the fast and furious energy quicken around this new moon because the sun is really tightly aligned with Uranus as well. We could be coming into some realization surrounding the future and where we're headed. We're being confronted with what we need to release or sever from in order to take the decisive steps towards a future that is beckoning us. What comforts and ego-centered attachments can we place into the compost pile? Can we trust that cutting away these parts of ourselves and our life will result in a fertile destiny? So in closing, where is your center? Without judgment or overthinking, can you identify the voice and the message of your higher self? With grounding and knowing, how can you take one step at a time towards the future? I hope that each of you are finding more inspiration than exhaustion at this moment. I hope that you are enjoying time with your loved ones during the summer season, at least for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere. And I hope that you can hear the voice of love and light much more prominently than the voice of fear and hate. It is always there, that voice of love and light, even when you may think that it has been depleted. Lots of love to each and every one of you. I'll see you next month. And thanks for joining me on this astrological journey of life. Such an honor. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.